Welcome to EternalJourney, the podcast.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of EternalJourney, the podcast that talks about all things Eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this week is episode 75 of the podcast, where we're going to be doing our Argent Depths first impressions, having our first look at the latest draft format that Direwolf has released, but also, we're going to be talking about some hype train action. That's right, we have a phenomenal person, which actually I'm going to flip the script and introduce them first. Awesome drafter, awesome streamer, watch the show all the time. Definitely a great way to get better at the limited format. He smashes it month after month, and this is why it's been so long to get him on the show. He was waiting till he got his custom card designed, developed, and implemented in the latest set, Argent Depths. I want to welcome on the show the one, the only GibbonPlusPlus. How you doing, brother?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I'm really excited to be here.
I can tell the enthusiasm is awesome. Man, I think that might have actually taken over Better Up's best intro. The hype there was legit. That's awesome.
I say
give him
thank
the
you for the best
tie.
one.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it a tie then. Fair enough. Not starting a little bit of guest. It might make our guest review, our year in review show a lot better when the guests
Guest
are
wars.
like, yeah, I like that. Have everyone on the show and just have them like roast each other. That'd be hilarious. Anywho, that other sultry voice you hear on the line is my good friend John. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Jedi. Hey, Gibbon.
Hello.
Hi.
And then finally, we have our very own personal hype man, Mr. Amazing himself, the Misclick Master. We have Alex. What's up, homie?
What is up, friends plus one? Howdy, Gibbon.
Howdy.
Let's see how many plus jokes we can sneak into the podcast throughout the whole time. Oh man, I'm excited for today's show. We're gonna have a good time. This has been a long time waiting. We asked you to be on the show. I can't imagine how many months ago when you were like, "Hey, that's cool. I want to be on the show, but kind of doing the card thing. So if you want to wait, that'd be great." And I felt like every other week I was like, "So, Gibbon, how about that card?" You're like, "Not yet."
It was like January, and I'm like, it'll be done in like 10, 20 days. We could just wait a couple weeks. It's what, July right now?
Yeah.
But we got there.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, at least at least they got it into the next set, right? It would have been a bit of a bummer if they were like, "Hey, didn't really work out. You gotta wait till the next one." No.
Yep. So I squeaked in there with Barry, so we can officially be tied for second card submitted.
Fair enough. That's right. We still have to see Caleb's and Cass's be entered. It'll probably come out in the next set, I would assume. But all right, a couple of quick announcements before we dive into the show. You can catch John, Alex, myself streaming live every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ, where we're doing 1 day of constructed and help and cubing and 3 days of limited goodness. And I say goodness for you because sometimes I'm just sitting there getting my face smashed in. But hey, it's a lot of fun for everyone. At least I show you what not to do. Then, of course, if you can't catch us live, you can catch us semi-live, I guess still online, but offline on YouTube. And you can catch the video version of this podcast, where our most recent set reviews, that's right, commons and uncommons, as well as rares and legendary set reviews, went up, which were the previous episodes of this podcast. But if you're more of a visual learner, you can check it out on the YouTube. Just search up EternalJourney, and every card that we talk about when we talk about it is going to be up on the screen for your enjoyment. And then finally, our shout-outs. I want to give a shout out to everyone that supports the channel, whether it be through subs, bits, just hanging out, lurking, all that good stuff. We're getting very close to the partner thing. We're feeling it. So everyone that comes in there, says hello, and hangs out is really great. Shout out to everyone in chat that was willing to chat it up and say some things to try to get some more VIP slots unlocked, which apparently is a hoax. I was at 42 of 50 for a long minute. So I was like, hey guys, we're going to do, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to straight up use and abuse you guys. We're going to do a legendary guessing game. If everyone can just say something so we can hit that 50 mark, because I'm running out of VIP badges, that would be great. And everyone did that plus some. There we go. Second plus of the show. Awesome. And apparently it's still 42 of 50. So wah. But anywho, a couple of specific people. T-Feet coming in with the 3-month resub. Congratulations on earning your lightsaber. And then Sip of Hemlock, first time, prime time. Thank you so much, friend. Been hanging out in chat for a while. Pulled the trigger on that. Really appreciate it. And then Rushy is here, a fellow streamer. Decided to sub to the channel as well. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to the Jedi Order. And of course, shout out to, once again, all the ongoing support and great people that have been coming along. Alex, you're 2 months away from getting your Darth Vader, man. You excited, bro? So you have like the double Darth action going on?
It's the only reason I'm here, bro.
I could believe that. Fair enough. All right, but that's gonna do it for our announcements and shout outs. Thank you guys so much, which means we get to do our first pack one, pick one of the format. We normally do a couple of these for the first episode, but because we have a guest, I want to go ahead and get to his insight and get to the good stuff. So we will do just one pack one, pick one this time. Of course, omitting that out of the previous shows because for those of you that have already listened to them, they are marathon runs where we talk a lot, so I wanted to streamline it and cut it. So without further ado, Gibbon, you're gonna take the lead on this one. You ready, buddy?
Oh man, yes.
Awesome. So I'm gonna give you all the commons, and then probably give John the uncommons, and then we'll go back to you for all the cards. Fair enough?
Yep.
All right, awesome. John, really appreciate the fact that you like rapid screenshotted this because of the highlight. Oh no, that's right. This is on Xbox. That's right. I'm like, why is Red Mask Warrior highlighted? But I thought you caught the pack like as soon as it opened. You know what I mean? It's still doing like the little animation, but
No, yeah, you're right. That's how the cursor looks for me.
yeah. All right, fair enough. Here we go. Starting off, Red Mask Warrior is a 4/1 Centaur Warrior for 3 fire, decay, ultimate. When you play a spell with cost 5 or more, gain triple fire. Natural Order is a slow spell for 3 primal. Revenge, give one of your units killer. Shadow Symbol, which is depleted power, but you gain a double shadow influence. Monk Innovator, a 1/1 mystic for 1 time. When you play another unit, it gets +1/+1 this turn. Summon Plunder. Ancient Machinist, 2/1 Explorer for 2 time. When you play a spell with cost 5 or more, transform Ancient Machinist into a Sentinel with attack and health equal to that spell's cost. So of course you play something like Disappear, which is a 6 cost spell, then it will transform into a 6/6. And you can do this mid-combat and it would still do the stuff and things. Apprentice Mage, 2/2 Mage for 2 time, +1 maximum power. Prize Sow is a 1/1 Pig for 1 shadow. When one of your units dies, you gain shadow influence and 1 health. And finally, Overheating Minibot is a 3/2 Grenadin for 2 fire, reckless, pay 2 and sacrifice Overheating Minibot to get +3 power this turn. All right, Gibbon, what are you looking at here? And why?
Totally in love with Apprentice Mage. I multiple reasons. It's the +1 power and it's not on a useless body. So I never liked Initiative of the Sands in limited, but the 1/3, the Devotee, was always pretty good, and 2/2 I think is even better. Especially now that the early game isn't completely defined around can you handle a Mag Stranger or a Steely Stranger in some cases. And you don't got to worry about that 2/3 run away with the game guy. So the 2/2 I think works better. You don't even need a plan to ramp, I feel like. A lot of times this is ramping me to power 3 or 4 because I'm stuck on power 2 or 3. And that's fine, right? And then super late, he can die. It's okay. This card is it's perfect. I don't know if I would even look at anything else close to it, even though I think, I don't know. At pick 1, you don't even know if really the Machinist is coming together or the Shadow Symbol is. So I think it's a slam Apprentice Mage.
Yeah, I can get behind that 100%. All right, sending it over to you, Alex. Our uncommons are Frontline Volunteer, aka Cassandra, 3/4 Warrior for 3 Justice. If you have double Fire Influence, it has Quick Draw. If you have double Primal Influence, it has Overwhelm. Oni Battle Driver, 3/3 Oni for 4 Fire. Once per turn, you may pay 2 to give one of your other units +1 attack and Overwhelm for each of your units. Sacrifice it at the end of the turn. And finally, Sky Serpent, a 3/3 Flying Serpent for 2 power and triple primal. And you know what? We'll just throw in the rare in here. Why not? Krill Clan Raider is a 1/1 warrior for 2 power, triple fire, single primal influence, +1/+1 for each of your other units. Ultimate, pay 7 to kill each enemy, weapon, and curse.
I mean, I like all the uncommons better than the rare, I think. Haven't really been able to make Skycrag work. I don't think it's that powerful, really. And out of the uncommons, the Oni Battle Driver is just overperformed for me. You can, it's kind of like it's like a crappier version of the rare, the 1/1.
Total Pioneer.
Total Pioneer,
Yes.
thank you. And it does a serviceable job of impersonating that guy, and that would be my pick out of those uncommons.
Does it beat out Apprentice Mage for you?
I think I'd rather be in time, so probably. Yeah, I think I would take the Oni Battle Driver over the Apprentice Mage.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say here. I think I agree with Alex completely. Like, I think overall in this pack, I'm looking most at the Battle Driver. Like, I think it's a good card, and the single fire means it's probably going to make any deck I draft. I think out of the rest of these cards, I'm actually kind of eyeballing the Sky Serpent. Like, I've been enjoying playing Primal in this format, and then yeah, I think it's the Apprentice Mage is very close for me there, in third.
Okay, all right. Let's send it back over to you, Gibbon. Does Oni Battle Driver take the cake over Apprentice Mage for you?
I think I'm still too partial to yellow, but I am coming up a lot more on Battle Driver, and I think it is a lot more necessary to get those red decks kind of over the finish line when they start hot and then run into green nonsense or whatever. So I think if I was feeling good about my red decks lately, I think that would be awesome. Or if I'm not feeling particularly hot about my yellow decks lately, then I would still go Battle Driver. I also want to give a shout out to Frontline Volunteer. I just love that whole cycle. I don't know if it's pack one, pick one material, but there's all those bodies are fair and honest, and then they have 2 like pretty easy to pick up nice little skills. It's like a really elegant limited cycle, and I just love all of them.
I agree with you completely. It's actually kind of funny too that they put that cycle in a format that's very 2-color heavy.
Yeah, you're not going to cash in both of them, probably, right?
Yep. I think the weakest of the cycle is probably Dunestalker, Dunewalker, the 1/6, and even then, that card still does some work.
Still costs 3, yeah.
Yep.
And also, I like the Sky Serpent. It's another one in the line of things that used to be tokens and now have been upgraded into fully formed cards. And I just feel like, oh, my children, they've grown up.
Oh, is that the exact card that the Hatcher makes or whatever?
Yeah. The Hatcher had triple influence already, so I don't know if it stripped it or not, but it didn't matter at that point because you had already got it.
Yeah, that's the only thing that threw me off was if it had that much. I mean, I guess I can understand that too. That is pretty neat though. I do appreciate that. And I mean, that's kind of what happened with what was it? Was it the Palace where we saw one of the spells off the Palace before it was actually released into the set?
Yeah, the big green one, I think.
Yeah, what was it? Last Stand Together?
It's one of those, yeah.
No, not those are the Cumbria ones. What is it?
Stand tall, shield. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anywho, the combat trick that ends up being a removal spell. That's so good. Anywho, yeah. I'm with you guys. I think it's Oni Battle Driver. That card is just such a strong finisher and gives you an alternate means. And once again, going back to that uncommon versus common thing, you have a higher chance of seeing Apprentice Mages later on versus Battle Driver. And whatnot, etc. But yeah, I like both cards. I do not mind slamming 3, maybe even 4 Apprentice Mages because there have been times where if you have enough of those, you can almost negate your 3-drop slot because your deck has a higher chance of going from 2 to 4. So
it's so first pickable. Like,
yep.
I wouldn't fault anyone for taking that here.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what Time wants to be doing this format. Sweet. But all right, guys, that's gonna do it for pack 1, pick 1. Which means we get to go into our main topic where we're going to be doing a rundown of some, hot takes and whatnot. Not going too in depth into our first impressions this go around. We've had the format out for what, 2 weeks now, I think. We got pretty good on getting that rare and legendary show off, so my timetable is a little off. But anywho, we want to get into some more stuff about Gibbon as well. So we're going to touch on some our impressions to help you guys get a better idea of what to do in this format, how to attack it, to see and find your little niche that you enjoy. And then once again, we're going to be talking about some hype plus terrain going on. So without further ado, let's start. It is the last question on here, but let's go ahead and just start with it at the top. I think it's a good way to start this conversation. So sending it over to you, Gibbon, what is your favorite faction and which one do you think is the most powerful? Because sometimes those don't always overlap.
Yeah, so I have not done as many drafts as I need to, and I feel like I'm swimming around a little bit, which is good because I feel like the last few sets I've kind of gotten really comfortable playing a couple of factions or whatever. I do think everyone's on Team Green right now. I think Green's kind of 3s and 4s kind of outclass a lot of the other ones, and their 6 quad influence flyer is really nice. So that's probably, if you're green plus anything, is probably, if everything falls together, is going to be pretty unstoppable, especially because they're the only one that has a bunch of really good tricks. My favorite so far has been Huru, just because I have not played a ton of blue in a lot of the last few formats, and so I was always skeptical. And then I think I just drafted a bunch of those the Huru the Valiant Leaps, and oh man, that's fun. So I didn't go full stun Huru, which I've seen other streamers do, and that looks like a real barrel of monkeys. So that is probably the most entertaining one to watch, I think. But even if you just put together your mid-range Huru deck, that's what I'd light up the most if I open packs that are going in that direction. I'd rub my hands together and go, oh, here we go again. I'm excited.
Well, you have some friends on this show for sure. I actually don't know where Alex is, but I know John is high on Huru, and I'm actually been enjoying it as well. That's one of my, I guess you could say, 7 wins. It was primarily Justice, but yeah, I think Huru has a decent amount of tools going on for it, and I'm glad that you like the, what's it called again? Is it Heroic Leap? Valiant Leap. That card is pretty darn good as well. I think it's overperformed as well. All right, John, since we're on the Huru train, buddy, how about you?
Yeah, I honestly don't really have anything other to say other than what Gibbon just said. Like, I agree completely. Like, I like Huru the best. It's so refreshing to be able to play blue again. And you know, I also think Justice is probably the most powerful generically. Like, it's got, I think, the most good commons and stuff. So just the average quality of a Justice deck, I think, is a little higher.
So
right now, as long as, the lane has to be open, of course, like, for any of this to be correct.
So let me ask you guys something, because I think it's kind of funny that Huru or Primal has gotten a bump here, but they actually got nerfed when it comes to removal. How do you two feel about that? Because we've, neither Lightning Strike or Permafrost or Biting Winds is weighted now, correct? And there's no good removal from Argent Depths? I
really enjoy, like, a tempo style game, and I think that's kind of the style that Huru is lending itself to in this format. And so, like, no, it doesn't really bother me. It's just like that, the way, you just have to construct your deck to just kind of be attacking every turn, hopefully. Right? That's how I feel about it anyway. What do you think, Gibbon?
Yeah, I do think Siphoner Paladin and Nightwatch Broadsword, and then a handful of stuns that you're going to get, it's going to be it, right? And so it's going to either win on tempo or clunk up the ground, remove a couple things with those, and then just hope for your leaps and flyers to carry you.
Right.
Got you.
The purple looks ridiculous with removal and does feel pretty strong, but I don't know. I feel like it kind of stands alone, and it's kind of like green in that way, and I don't feel like it needs to go with a particular color unless you're doing the ambush deck.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know. That's trail off.
Yeah, no. That makes perfect sense. I totally get that. And we'll go a little more in depth when we get to me. Alex, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm just excited that Primal's it's alive again. You can use it, and I've had success with Elysian. Just like a Flyers deck, the Serpent that draws you a spell from your void is probably like my favorite card.
That card is exciting.
I love that card. And it does everything you want to do in that deck. And Huru, the stun, what you guys talked about, I'm also we talked about it before the show a little bit, Jedi. I've tried like almost every single archetype except I haven't got to pull off Xenon, which I really do want to do that curtain call. Like, that's just a blowout. Like, if you can get that card in a Xenon deck and blow somebody out. But yeah, no, I'm just kind of getting my wings and trying to learn stuff, which is exciting.
Yeah, and it's oh man, it's actually a tough question for me because I'll be honest with you, despite not having a ton of wins with every combination, I've actually been enjoying drafting all the factions. I don't think there's ever a faction where I haven't been happy about. That being said, if I do have to pick one, I'm pretty much on you guys. Like Justice is just hella strong. I think they really all do. Honestly, I think Justice inherently that 3 and 4 slot is just so powerful at the common level that I think it really sets you up for success. Where you're just like, they have a great 2-drop, they have a great 3-drop, they have a couple of good 4s, so it's kind of like already being in Justice sets you up to naturally have a higher power deck. So if you are supposed to be in Justice, you're just even better. But every combination has done some stuff and things, and they all have very unique game ways of playing, which I think is a lot of fun too. So it's not just, 2-color good stuff in every faction. Literally each faction has its identity. If I had to lock in a combination though, I probably honestly, I've been seeing so much success with Argentport on both sides of the board. I've gotten smashed by them, to include Andrew Beckstrom smashing me with Argentport in Constructed, it was Expedition, but it was still pretty impressive. There's just so much power. The Paladin Siphon that we're going to talk about in a minute, with the sack synergies, with the armory synergies, just that deck ends up having so much inherent value in it while still developing your board, that I think, and then much like what Gibbon said, it has access to some of the best removal in the format. Like I said, it's really far and away the faction that I've seen the most success with. It just felt good to me, and I'm not trying to be armory biased at all either. Some of the times I haven't had the best armory deck with it, but still the deck just does everything. Baseline, great units, mixed in with great removal. You have access to evasive units, you have access to great pump spells. That faction feels like it does it all. Whether it's the best or not, I don't know, because I have seen some really good success with time as well. But yeah, it just feels really good, and it rewards you for doing the things you already want to be doing with time, because once again, you want to play Siphoner in time, so it rewards you for having sack fodder as well as weapons. And then, much like Gibbon said, the 4/4 give you 4 armor flying Tinker is just great as well. So yeah, I want to say I'm probably on Argentport right now. It could change because I've had some fun with Skycrag, I've had some fun with Huru, but far and away that's the color combination I think has done the most work for me. You guys have anything to input on Argentport?
I like it as well. It seems like it's actually pretty well supported. In fact, like you said, I think all of the factions, like all the 2 faction pairs, have a pretty strong like identity. But like I think that they designed the set to where each identity has like very good synergistic overlap with the other 2 that it touches or whatever, right? So it, like, when you're drafting them, it just works out like so cleanly, no matter kind of which way you lean, no matter what your base is. It reminds me a lot of like Ravnica from Magic. Like it seems like each faction just has such a distinct identity, and like any of them can actually win if you actually build your deck to utilize that strategy. Like it seems like a really cool draft format so far to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It feels like a magic focused draft format where every 2 things are overlapping and in a mechanic. It's kind of cool.
So a couple things that I want to bring up before we go into real particular specifics. The one thing I will say that just came to mind while we're talking about it is Xenon is really interesting. Xenon is kind of the do things at fast speed ambush kind of deck, or evasion, right? You can go evasion with we'll talk about the Weavers in a second, but I think that archetype, though fun and interesting and can be powerful, I think you have to be careful when drafting it, because it does force you to add an extra layer of being at your opponent's mercy, so to speak, I guess. Or I don't know what's the correct verbiage. I mean, one of you guys can articulate it a little bit better than me, but there's gonna be times where you're playing stuff suboptimally to enable your game plan, right? You're gonna play an ambush unit that you're not going to be able to ambush anything good because you want to trigger your Blur Haze Worms, or you just want to continue to develop your board and things like that. Or there's something you want to play on your turn, but you have to wait till your opponent's turn to get the added value. So there's a little bit of interesting, and I don't think it's a downside. It's just a little bit of more interesting and intricate gameplay. but that's gonna happen. What do you guys feel on that? Like, Gibbon?
Yeah, I've seen streamers just go off on it, and it was like, wow, this is unstoppable. And then I've also, had it feels like you're doing a lot of cute things, and yeah, you can draw a lot of cards, and then it's like, and they're still smashing you with their big stuff, and I didn't get my Allosaur or something. So, yeah, it feels better than. I don't know. I've been really impressed with it overall. When I first saw it, I'm like, oh, you ambush and then you can draw a card. I'm like, this is gonna be terrible. And it actually, I think it came together really well. And I think you're not reaching too hard to go for it because a lot of these cards are kind of good and don't need that many enablers. So I don't feel like you've ruined your deck if you go for it and you got one less of like the payoff card. But yeah, it is a little. Sometimes I'm firing off spells on their turn that are like way suboptimal because I want to draw 2 cards on that worm, right? And it's like, yeah, sometimes that works and sometimes you feel dumb.
Alex?
Probably worth it to go through your deck. Even if it's a suboptimal play of say you're playing the 2/3 ambush, even just to draw the cards, it's still worth it, So like there's a little bit of give and take when you do that, but usually you just want to draw cards, go through your deck.
Yeah, I guess I feel worse when I'm like silencing something that doesn't need to really be silenced, but I really want to draw this card. Like the units feel all right because they stick around, right?
That's more of a totally. I get that. Maybe like that when you save if they like try to do something to your worm or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Since you mentioned it, I will say that silence is still good in this format. It's probably even more so now that it's not as easy to come by, so you can do a lot more. Having a 1-cost fast spell to silence something means it's a solid combat trick. You could pick off a flyer, you could stop a decay unit or a deadly unit. So yeah, I think silence is still very good in this format.
Just watch out for that mass silence if the opponent's playing any of those Prism Golem. You're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah. So far, I've gotten blown out 1 time by that card, the mass silence. So I've dodged that bullet a couple times.
If Forget Revenges, are you forced to silence their only Prism Golem?
Yes.
That's excellent.
Yeah, it's worded so it's mandatory, but it's also worded so you can't silence your own stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Which actually would be very good in this format because there's a lot of units that require, things to be going on like stuns to actually be units. So that'd be if there was more self silence in the format, those units would just be kind of better. But there's really not a lot.
The 4/5 for 2.
Yeah, for example, or like the bird. Although that one comes down on the ground when you silence it, but actually that's just terrible. Never mind. Yeah, like that one or the lurking raptors is still in the format too. Legendary though.
Well said. Good hot take. I like that. One last thing on Xenon. I mean, you essentially get to play, I don't know, this is probably a front runner for the best card in the format at the moment, which is Curtain Call. 2 cost, fast spell, +2 attack and lifesteal to 2 units, and then if you have quad time influence, all your units get to not die this turn, which is interesting wording for multiple reasons. They do still take damage. They still can fall below 0 health, or 1 health, I should say. They just won't die this format. They will die to decay at the end of the round or the next round, etc. However you want to look at it. But other than that, yeah, that card is just absolutely backbreaking. It's good on defense. It's good on offense. It's just so busted. Oh god, yeah. That card is you should almost pivot to be able to play that card if you can, and heaven forbid if you get 2 past you at some point, like just for Xenon, because that card can that card is such a blowout, dude. It's such a blowout.
It's so good. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does it all.
Yeah, I mean it's evolving the constructed meta, so you can only imagine how powerful it could be. That's one of those cards that does cross over well because it's a combat trick, and yeah, it's good pretty much every time you cast it one way or another.
Yeah, like I brewed up like an even Combre deck for our team to try out possibly for this weekend, and it's Splash and Curtain Call, of course, because like I mean that's because that card is going to dominate the ECQ this weekend.
Yep, I've heard.
It's like I expected to get a nerf from constructed, and whatever they decide to do, it's still going to be bonkers in draft.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we led onto it a little bit earlier was the Weavers. So there's 3 Weavers. I should probably get it on the screen. What was it? It's Might Weaver. I'll get it on screen for a second. But I think all 3 of these guys are absolutely great. They do so many good things.
Spirit Weaver.
I'll look it up in a second. It's
Okay, so I thought there was just 2.
Oh,
There's
you're right.
2.
You're right. You're right. You're right. There is.
But
2.
now I searched for Weaver, and there's apparently a Time Weaver from a prior set in the game.
Okay,
And
that's okay. Yeah, there's 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel better. Anyways, the fire one gives any unit with 5 attack or more double damage, which I'm in love with. And then the Spirit Weaver is the shadow one that, right? Spirit Weaver is the shadow one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That gives any unit with 5 attack or more lifesteal, which that one's seen constructed play. But I think they're extremely powerful. You can tell the way they designed this format. There are a decent amount of 5x units that can do some work. And you actually don't necessarily have to have a bunch of 5x units in your deck to make these work. If you have pump spells and things like a battle driver to essentially make your smaller units 5 attack or more, then that's some great synergy, which I will go ahead and just say it, that Might Weaver plus Battle Driver is absolutely amazing, because Battle Driver will give the unit, like we talked about earlier, Overwhelm. So there have been, one of the decks I had a lot of fun with was a Skycrag deck where I made a bunch of Rustlings, and I would sit there with 5 or 7 units on the board. I would give a +7/+0 and Overwhelm to one of my Rustlings, and all of a sudden they're in, a 7/1 Overwhelm double damage unit that, sure, it's going to die at the end of the turn, but my opponent is still forced to block her. They're going to take a preposterous amount of damage. So yeah, I think the Weavers are absolutely great. The Spirit one's probably a scotch better than the Might Weaver, only because of the fact that it has Plunder versus getting a +1 attack on its own. But that being said, Spirit Weaver just kind of stops you. It helps in race situations. It stops you from losing the game, versus Might Weaver will end the game in very short order. So, John?
Yeah, I think these are great. I love the way Might Weaver can enable its own double damage thing with the Surge too. You prioritize, symbols and other double powers for your deck and things like that. No, these are so good. They're definitely in the running for best uncommon, other than Curtain Call, right?
Mm-hmm. Gibbon?
Yeah, I like Might Weaver a lot. Anything to make my boy Inferno Zealot go off is a good card. I feel the Surge is trying to trap me, and they're like, go on, attack with your Might Weaver, and then who knows what'll happen to it, right? So it's I feel better just imbuing it and trying to forget about it and letting its passive effect do something, and I don't get carried away trying to maximize damage and lose my whole win condition. That may have happened before.
Yeah, actually, you know what? That's a very good point. We're the wise. Weavers do not attack ever. Don't.
Well, if it's an open board, But you're right.
I mean,
it's not like there's an ambush faction or anything.
Yeah, I know.
No,
That's what I was gonna say.
power,
even then, man, if they have they have 2 power up, I'm just Alchemist. Nope.
Is what I'm saying. Clean attacks only.
Open road.
Yeah, and the good thing is especially if you're not going up against Shadow, there's so much less interaction as far as for non-attacking units, non-combat interaction, where you feel a little bit better about leaving it out there a little bit earlier. Might Weaver, I try to play them the turn where I can get something out of them right away, i.e. wait till I have a 5-drop that can attack, or a 5x that can attack before I play Might Weaver or Spirit Weaver. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's correct to just play them out there. Use your power efficiently, get your curve going and whatnot. But yeah, you could definitely blow out some people for sure. I think just going back to that combo between Might Weaver and Battle Driver, I think it's probably the way I've been doing is playing the Might Weaver first and then waiting until I have the 6 power to play the Battle Driver and activate it right away. But I mean, I wouldn't knock anyone for doing it either way or whatnot. But yeah, they're really solid picks, man. Easy single influence cards, so they're easy to be your secondary color and whatnot. I think they're great pickups. At the very least, it makes your opponent rethink their strategy as well. It could be one of those things where we were seeing that with Machinist, right? Every time you see Machinist, you're like, okay, is this the turn it's going to be a 6/6 or a 5/5? And people have to respect it. It's kind of the same thing with Might Weaver or Spirit Weaver sitting on the board, they're like, okay, am I just gonna get gotten by a Tentaclesis? So let's see. Speaking of colors, let's go ahead and take some broad strokes here real quick. I think going straight to colors is fine. I think it's completely doable in this format. If that is the case, I think you probably have to really skim down on the 4 influence cost cards. I know that because talking about one of my favorite cards from the previous format, Hammerhand, was Quad Fire, and even being an 8-drop, it was still pretty restrictive and pretty chancy to play it in your deck, and you had to adjust your power source for it. So I think these quad influence cards at 6 definitely still require that. So you might not be running triple disappear in your straight Xenon deck or whatnot. And it's completely doable to run straight 2 colors. I think you're still seeing a lot of single and dual influence faction cards where it's perfectly fine running a straight 2 color. If not, the default, if you are going to lean heavily into those powerful 4 influence cards, then you really want to be somewhere around the lines like 75 to 85% one color, almost mono faction, and then have the other color be really light with, if you possibly can, avoid most double influence cards. But if not, that's fine, but definitely avoid the 3 and 4 influence cards to make that happen in the second color, obviously. And then 3 color, I think I might have done it in one draft, and I think I splashed for maybe like a Might Weaver. I picked up like whatever, a Silex or some of the Vows, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll play the Might Weaver, Spirit Weaver. But I think 3 color is borderline non-existent in this format. Alex, what are you seeing?
No, I'm not seeing very many more than 2 color decks. If it's 3, it is, like you said, a splash. I'm seeing a lot of attempts at mono color decks, and those can be pretty powerful as well. Yeah, I've only done 1 splash of a card, and it was in my market, and like that was the only 3rd color that I went into one time. I've had 1.5 to less colors. Wait, does that make sense? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gibbon?
Like that's my
Oh,
average.
my bad.
Oh no, that was it. I was done. Sorry.
I like that we're leaning way back and splashing feels special kind of again. I generally, if I had to like pick one balance, I like being able to splash more than this. But definitely when we're coming out of some sets where you just can play, what I call a Mercedes symbol 3 colors, that pie chart or whatever, you can open on all 3 colors, is like, that's nonsense to me. I like that it's a little more restrictive. But unfortunately, yeah, even when I've tried to splash something, a lot of the like single 1-card bombs I'd want to play in the other colors are themselves double influence. And so once in a while you can cobble together that thing where like you play some of those spells that give you 2 influence pips of 2 different colors. And you can pick up like a symbol, and then like you could try to go with that. I tried to play a crystallize once on that. Didn't go that great, but I did cast it once. And then yeah, I think it's 2 factions, and like one of your factions you can go up to 4 quad influence, and the other one you're going up to 2. And if you try to do both of them more than that, it's being silly.
You bring
Unless
up
you're just drowning, and there's a lot of evangels still flying around in symbols. So I guess if you're really cleaned up on those, maybe you can justify more.
I think you bring up a very good point though, where if your splash color ends up being if you can pick up aggressively pick up symbols in that color, I think it does facilitate the double influence splash, right? So you can splash your death strikes if you pick up a couple of shadow symbols, because I mean you are playing 1 power that's giving you 2 shadow influence. So I do think that's a feasible thing as well. But you probably want to be somewhere upwards of 3 to 5 symbols, which isn't unheard of. But yeah, that's a very good point. The fact that the symbols do facilitate a slightly easier splash in certain respects. John, how do you feel about as far as the whole?
I'm seeing the same thing. You guys basically covered everything I would say there. Yeah, I'm seeing the same stuff. Mostly 2 color, a little bit of single color, and a little bit of some people trying to splash, but it is difficult to do.
Yeah, I'll send this one over to you because this is something else that's come up in discussion in stream, is the fact that we are leading so heavily into 1 faction decks or 2. I find it that at least this feels, and it could be once again the fact that we're coming off of a highly splashable format, that you're seeing a lot more discrepancies between pack 1 and 4 and 2 and 3, where I felt like every once in a blue moon I would be missing, I'd be getting past a different faction. Now I feel like that could potentially happen more often. Is that something you're seeing as well?
I can't say for sure. I mean, I've definitely noticed that, but I can't say by the numbers or anything like that that's actually happening. But I definitely have kind of felt that. If that's the way I can answer that, yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying like the signals are more chaotic in this set?
Or just clash?
I think like if I'm like very heavily in one or two factions in the first pack, and then if those factions aren't open in packs 2 and 3, you really have to take note of that. Like, I don't know, I've noticed a lot of my drafts where it seems like they're completely opposite, and the signals seem muddled. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I've been feeling that too, and you're right. It's hard to know, like, is the data actually doing that, or is it just you get more punished, so you feel it harder when it happens versus before when it's like, I'm 3.5 colors. This kind of works, whatever.
Yeah, that's probably really what it is, right?
Yeah, because I mean, it's one of those things where you're like, sweet, I got 2 disappears, a reality snap, and 2 worms in pack 1. We're definitely time, and then you look and there's absolutely no time in packs 2 and 3. And you're like, well, do I go on one other color? Do I change my deck around? Like, what was open on pack 1? And so it definitely makes it a little bit tougher for less experienced drafters to really feel like they're putting together a coherent deck, right? Because there's no better feeling than when you're like, okay, we're Mono Justice leaving pack 1, and then pack 2 and 3 is kind of Argent Port is open, so you're like, oh yeah, we're doing it. That's what's up,
I think the best place you can probably be is just coming out of pack 1, like early identify your open color, your most open color, because I think then you'll end up coming out with the highest quality, just commons and uncommons on average, and then that way most of those are going to work out for you in your deck regardless of what's open in packs 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm. A couple of last points I want to make before we move on. Siphoner Paladin, the 1/5 for 3 justice comes into play. You can sack a unit, or sack another unit, I'm sorry, to either make a 3/3 relic weapon or give a +3/+3 to a current relic weapon. I think that card is very strong. It's actually cool because it kind of synergizes with itself with the fact that it creates a 1/5 blocker that makes it to where it's harder for your opponent to destroy your weapon should you not use it to trade right away. And there are at least 3 units that are good sack fodder at the 2-drop slot in Justice, so you don't even have to dig too deep to make that synergy work. I think that card is very good. I think it's overperformed for me, and chat is very high on it every time I stream. The last Argent Port deck I made, I had 3 of those guys, and the third one was actually in contention with another good Justice card. I don't remember what it was now, but chat was almost like windmill slamming the Siphoner Paladin. And I gotta admit, like, that card continues to overperform for me and on the other side of the board as well. It just synergizes very well, especially on the play. If your opponent plays something like the Apprentice Mage, you have your Porter that you can sack to make sure you hit your 4th power, and you get to sack or kill their mage and still have a weapon left for whatever they play on 3 or 4. It just feels really good.
I think it's best by far when you can do the like boosting the current relic weapon ability on that. That lets you really take out some big things like that. Yeah, you're right. That's a very good card. It has a lot of support in the format. Is that your favorite common, you think?
Common. That, yeah, maybe. I don't know, because once again,
it's in the running.
Yeah, maybe, because once again, I haven't really locked in a faction. I've been playing a lot of everything.
Yeah, we're all kind of in the experimental phase, I'm sure.
Man, I still feel like it might be the 3/5 Caravan Guard. I know it's not exciting, but you know me, I'm not a very exciting drafter, but that card just always feels it makes you feel so safe when you can land that on turn 3, right? You're going to probably 2-for-1 your opponent if they do anything to get in there. I don't know, it just feels really good. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, it feels like uncommon power level on that card. It really is like a legendary common that I seem to never get any Like I haven't had very many of that card, and not because I don't like it. I just don't see it. But then again, I've only done like 13 drafts or so. So
I mean, I feel like draft is a very good spot in Eternal right now, where we have a lot of people streaming it and a lot of people playing it. So I think it's very competitive. So good cards don't go very late anymore. There was one card I saw super late in a draft the other day, and I don't remember what it was now, but I mean super late. It was like a 6th or 7th pick something, and I don't remember what it was now. But I was like, what? How is this card? There's no way this card, 5 people pass this card. But anywho, Gibbon, where are you at on Siphoner?
Yeah. I think like the first time it showed up, my chat just screamed at me like, "This card's amazing, just pick it." And I was like, "Okay, it makes sense." And then like as soon as you start playing with it or playing against it, it becomes apparent how amazing it is. I think psychologically, when I read the card, I wasn't like, "Oh, this must be good." And it might just be the difference of if it said summon, transform one of your units into a 3/3 relic weapon, I would have been like, "Oh, neat." But it's like sacrifice. I'm like, well, what am I doing? Unless it's the wrestling deck. Like, what do I got? Things laying around I want to kill? And actually, yeah, like I'll kill a. What were we just talking about? The
Clergy Porter.
Sorry, the one I just picked on the pack 1 pick 1. The Apprentice Mage. That guy's gone if that weapon lands well, and I can swing again the next turn, right? And I don't need the power right now, so it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's kind of like decimating, which I know you love that. So
yeah, gotta go for it.
Yep. The I didn't put it in the notes, but I need to look that up real quick. The 3/2. I keep getting it confused with the Outstanding or the Outbreak, whatever, Mind Bot, the Mini Bot, the one they're almost the same card. Anyways, every time you
Rustling.
Yeah, no, it's a Grenadin.
It's like Rust Machine or something?
Rust Machine, there you go. That's what it is. Thank you. It's every time you play a spell that costs 5 or more, you make 2 Rustlings. That card, and then you could ultimate pay 4 to get a 5 power added to your deck. I never use it because I keep thinking of the silly Mind Bot and think it sacks it. But yeah, that card is deceptively good. You're like, I don't really care for 2 1/1s, but the fact that they're 2 1/1s for free, and they have decay, so they can chump block very well, and it synergizes with, of course, Battle Driver. That card has been quite a performer. It's pretty darn scary. It's don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing it to Tota Pioneer, but it has that Tota Pioneer feel where you're like, man, do I really want to kill a 2/2 that kind of does nothing? You're like, yes, because it will win your opponent the game. And that guy, the machine, feels the exact same way.
I also like that it goes with Rusty Granamotive, who also ramped on attack, and both are rust-based Grenadins, so maybe they're on their last legs before they become rustlings themselves.
Ooh, good point. I like that. Good call. And the one last thing I'm going to mention is we talked about Ejin on the set review show, and we weren't quite sure if she would trigger on herself or not, but she will. It's been confirmed. I saw it on screen. So she can be a 3-cost 7/7 if you already have the correct Justice Influence when she comes into play. So just something to keep in mind, because I know we...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Someone did that to me in League today, and then I disappeared it. It was scary.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember the wording on it, but for some reason we weren't 100% sure. And so, yeah, but
we were pretty sure, though, but we just hadn't seen it in action.
Yeah, maybe that's right.
Didn't we think a 3-cost 7/7 would be too crazy? That's what I thought.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have Overwhelm, so I guess that kind of keeps it. And
it's consistent with other wording like that in Eternal, so it makes sense.
But anyways, just wanted to throw it out there since we questioned it on one show. Wanted to get it out there that it is confirmed. If you have the correct influence when you play her, she would see her own trigger, or see her own summon effect or whatnot, and become a 7/7 for 3. So solid.
I also, if I can say, I really like the design of that cycle where it's like once the card's set up, you sit back and win the game, but you're incentivized to attack with it to get there. And I always feel dumb when I'm like making my crazy tempo attacks, and like I was saying earlier, and I throw my win condition away because it searched for +2 and I got excited, right? Well, here you can't really blame me, right? Like there's no way we're going to get to 6 green a lot of the time unless Egen starts swinging when situations that seem kind of safe. So I feel like it also fits with Eternal's kind of trying to be different than Magic and kind of making you attack more often to do the things that are fun.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree. Gibbon, do you have any other hot takes or little snippets of information that you've taken away from your draft so far?
No, I think I've jammed them all in there during the course of this conversation. Yeah, I guess the big thing is the first thing I always do is I look at the yellow commons and uncommons, and I look for what we call BYDS or big dumb yellow stuff. Because and I think they're all green right now. And basically, do you have a backbone of overstated creatures that can take you from 2 to X? And yellow is, I mean, if you don't nail some uncommons, and even then they're like 5/5s for 5. You know, you got your Allosaur and your Worm, which are way up there, and they're not, you know, they're no Corpse Bloom or whatever, right? So I think, especially now that green has like a 3/5 for 3, blue has a 3/5 for 4 with decay. It's kind of like it's one of those yellow sets where yellow doesn't feel like traditional yellow to me, and I think that's good because I can stop playing yellow every single time. I think set 4 was the last time where it didn't feel like there was big fat stuff all throughout the curve. I think we were playing pensive lumens that were like 3/5 some of the time, and it was like, this is my big yellow guy. So they still have some things, and of course at that huge top end, there's that 8/8 for 8. But it's one of those sets, and I think that's neat, especially coming off the last few where yellow, you know, we had 6/5 silencers and 7/7 bouncers and just crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. I will say that if I'm heavy time, I will snag up as many disappears as I can, because that card is just such clean removal. Your opponent can see it coming, you know, 4 time, influence, 6 power. It's pretty easy to identify when your opponent has it, but there's not really much they can do about it. It shuts off any kind of special entomb shenanigans or anything like that, exalted, all that, because it tucks the card at the bottom of the deck, which makes it, you know, they can't recur it. It's fast speed. It doesn't care about their life total or their health or their stats or anything like that. So I've liked it. That being said, I pretty much only play it when I'm primarily time, very heavy time. But I think that card it's good. I like it personally. I think it's probably, let me think. What's the quad shadow card?
The relic weapon.
Oh yeah, for sure. So never mind. Yeah, for me it's probably, and then the fire one I haven't gotten able to use it. And then what the prime? Yeah, no, straight up. All right. So for me, it's the Tinker is number 1, and then Disappear is number 2, with all the other 3 just being borderline unplayable. To be honest with you, I haven't seen the fire one actually on either. The 2 decks I drafted with it, I ended up cutting them because they were too low curve, and then I've never seen it on my opponent's side of the board either. And that one seems like it could be powerful, but I guess you just have better things to be doing with your fire decks. And I think the primal one, I did lose to it one time, which we said was going to happen. But I think I think the fact that it just straight up gets smashed by silence, I don't think it's worth playing. And then the shadow one, I have yet to see that be very impressive either. So
the craziest thing I've done with the blue one so far, and I've done this once in League and once in draft so far, is that I got to play Barry's Merchant, the Waystone Broker.
Mm-hmm.
And that quad influence flyer is so perfect to just sit in your market. And then when you do get the 4 and you draw the Broker, oh, hey, now you got 4 of those guys coming up in the next 20 cards in like a big board style. It's nuts. But to get it in your main deck seems really hard.
Yeah, that's a great use for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you got your go wide board already established. You're like, now's a good time for a bunch of gigantic flyers.
Yeah, they silence one of them. You're like, well, okay, 3 more coming.
Yeah, because there's not a ton of silence. Like, they're not going to be. I'm not going to deal with 4 of them with silence. There's no way.
Yep. Okay, well, I think that will wrap it up for our first impressions. So hopefully we pass some good information and solid stuff to you guys to help you do a little bit better in your drafts and have a good time. So that leads us to our talk about the hype train. Whoop whoop. So without further ado, Gibbon, you've been streaming for a long time. How long have you been streaming?
I started about 2 years ago. I think it was the end of set 3. And then I really ramped up and started streaming like 4 or 5 nights a week in set 4. And then I kind of pulled back like to 2 to 3 days a week for sets 5 and 6 and plus, and then lately it's been 1 to 2 nights a week in the last couple sets.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've been playing since closed beta, but I was playing really casually and had no idea what I was doing. But I at least some of my stats go back that far or whatever.
Sweet. So you saved up your influence for being a streamer and cashed it.
Oh wait, sorry, I think I said closed beta. I've been playing since open beta. I'm not one of the cool kids with the orange sword. Sorry, I want to fact check myself there.
Oh, no worries at all. I'll be honest with you. I guess I was playing since open beta, but yeah, I don't recognize the swords. I just think it's cool. I'm like, cool, they got the sword card back, but I don't reference the colors at all. But I guess so. You said the orange one is the closed beta?
This is the closed beta one. If anything, it's cooler to play the bronze one and be like, look at me, I just started playing, I'm beating you. Anyway, sorry.
For a until they came out with the sloth card backs, I actually ran the OG card back for I don't know how many months until the sloth, and I was like, okay, that's kind of worth switching it up for. So
that's a good one.
Yeah. So once again, you saved up your influence. You went to the community store and you cashed it in. 1,750,000 influence.
Yeah.
And right, or is it 100?
1.75.
Yeah, okay.
It's a weird number. Yeah. I don't know how I came to that, but.
And that means that you were able to submit your own card design to be added to the next or a set. I still think they should put a little snippet somewhere in there to acknowledge the person that's a community card, even if they put like literally just community or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a shame that they don't, but that's fine. It's their game, and the community is small enough where we all know what cards were created. So tell us about your card, and then
I feel like every. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I feel like every a random conversation I see on Reddit, people generally have all the community cards and upcoming community cards figured out, except for one random person gets left out. And so the list is always this, and this. And then there's one more, right? And that person keeps changing around. But whatever. Yeah, it's a small community. And I honestly would rather them add the little set indicators so we could just at a glance know which is which. And I think a lot of people from Magic would really like that too. But a little star for the community would be neat too.
Yep. So tell us about that journey. Like it's super exciting.
Yeah.
Man. Not everyone's gonna be able to do it. So
yeah, so I'm a little out of place because when this thing launched, Yada started at like 1 million influence and was our biggest streamer and streamed all the time, and so we got his card pretty fast, right? And then like almost over a year went by right before the next round came. And then if you look at the other 3 players that are getting cards, Barry and Caleb, Kalebovich and Kassenderith, they're all Twitch partners, right? And they have these huge audiences and whatnot. So it's kind of like, how did I get here? And I think the math works out that the influence started being tracked, I think, around the Amazon Prime or the Droptober timeframe. It started before the store opened, right? And that lined up pretty much right when I started going hard at streaming and streaming a lot. And additionally, it's not, the influence is bottom heavy. It's got a high floor. Like if you stream to one person, you get about half the influence you get to stream to 10 people, and about half to 100, and about half to 1,000. And so streaming to a small audience is almost as good, or at least over half as good, as streaming to a huge audience. And so the smaller, affiliate-sized streamer like me was able to rack up a bunch of influence, even though I'm like still a silver streamer, right? Whereas the gold, silver, diamond ranks among streamers is just raw viewer hours. So if you get on the front page or something crazy, like you can spike that really fast, but there's a huge like kind of dampening effect or logarithmic growth or something like that on the orbs. So that was in my favor. The time I really went hard was in my favor. And then the influence store opened in February of last year. And it just so happens the day it opened, I went on a week-long trip to San Diego for an improv festival. And so I could watch Twitch like on the plane, in the hotel room, whatever. I still did all that, but I couldn't stream. And between the launch and 7 days after the launch, it became very clear that these influence campaigns were not sustainable. Like they were like hugely audience capturing, but already infighting was beginning, and it took a step back, and I was like, okay, I haven't spent any yet. Like what should I do? I think I'm gonna wait and see where this goes and just start saving for a card, because I don't even really have a good idea for a card yet. But like if these all go away, then I'm gonna wish I had just saved all the points, right? And so I hedged that way. And it got so bad to the point where I'm like, they should probably just refund most of those campaigns back to those people, in which case my saving didn't do anything. But they didn't do that. So I ended up with, I started at like 500,000 just because of my earlier kind of push during the Droptober set 4 time frame. And then I just saved from there, and it took me about a year, and I kind of was able to track it out. I figured out how much I was making per stream or per week or per month, and on average, it looked like it was going to take about a year. We ended up getting those like double influence upgrade chests, where they automatically upgraded to silver. That lasted a few months, and that kind of helped too, because I started streaming less. I started streaming like once or twice a week, and so that plus 2,000 influence, every day or two from clicking those things added up to a lot too. And so, yeah, also I watch a lot of Twitch. I click a lot of boxes. I'm able, there's enough dead time, not dead time, but there's enough time where I'm at work, but something doesn't need my full attention. Like I'm running a test or I'm installing something that takes a while or whatever. And I can easily just like look over and say, oh, there's a chest floating there. And otherwise I'm just listening to Twitch, kind of like a podcast or whatever, with all my favorite streamers that are on during the US afternoon. And so, yeah, that was it. And then it became clear that I was getting close, and I was like, okay, better think of something. And that was scary because I have not played Magic for 20 years like a lot of people have. And I played it when I was a kid, but I have no idea how to design a card. I don't know what space has been explored out there. Every time I try to think of something new or clever, I was like, it's kind of dumb. And so the thing I landed on was, okay, well, look, this doesn't have to change the world. I just want to make the funnest, coolest like creature I can. That whenever I see it, I'll smile and spark joy or whatever. Or when someone plays it against me or somebody else, you can go, oh, it's the train or whatever. So it wasn't even a train right away, but I would just thought about like, what's a cool creature type that if I made it, it would be kind of special and it could do something neat. And then it took a couple iterations to even get close to this, and then it kind of got set.
One thing I do want to interject, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I've been totally listening at the edge of my seat. It's actually probably benefited you at the fact that you weren't really too reliant on a potential Magic or another paper card background, because of the fact that Eternal's in a very great spot because it's only digital. So you have access to a whole nother side or design space that you wouldn't have when you have to worry about the physical cards mimicking it. Much like we see where cards
Definitely
maintain their modifications in the void and in your deck and stuff like that. We can do that because we don't have to worry about how are we going to represent this in the physical world. It's just like, cool, the AI, the computer will make sure that, if it's the third from the bottom or whatever, it's going to do exactly that. No one has to double check that, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it actually gave you an advantage, because then the sky's the limit, where you have one less restriction on what you can do.
Yeah, I love Eternal more than Magic for much of that reason, right? So I did want to, if I could, make my card do something that felt eternally like making copies of cards that aren't like tokens. I do think we just got done with a Magic set like Choreo, where they tried to do battle skills and it was a big mess. And so I like when the Eternal cards really feel special that way. But yeah, I don't know. I am a creativity through constraint person, and so this idea that like I have even more options, it felt more like terrifying a little bit. But the thing that gave me some drive was I decided on a unit type, which was a ghost train or a nightmare engine. And it ended up just being a train, which is fine, because honestly, and I'm going to go through it all, they gave me an awful lot, and they did an awful lot of work to make my card the way I wanted it, and programming and all this other stuff. So I feel very happy with the end result and how far they went out of their way to give me something that I was asking for and help, that I feel ownership of the design of.
For the record, Nightmare Train sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first one, and I guess I'll just talk about it. The first one was going to be like a purple, maybe Xenon. The big idea was, okay, I wanted to be a train, so a train had to be reckless. It probably had to be overwhelm. I liked reckless units in general because I like the things that incentivize you to attack. I like it can in limited, you can kind of hide combat tricks behind it because they're like, oh, they have to attack. I like its kind of resilience to silence, because it's like, well, you played yourself, I can block now, so it gives you like a little bit of a parting gift. And also the stats on a reckless unit will generally be high because it's reckless. So silences are also kind of not earth-shatteringly bad against you there. But then since I wanted to be a ghost train, the first one was like, the concept was I wanted like there be a passenger on the train. And so since it was a ghost train, I wanted to like shift. And then when it unshifted, it would like play a unit out of your deck for free or something like that. Or it was like when it shifted, it would shift a unit out of your deck right away. And then 3 turns later. And we were one set past the shift set. And I didn't love them. I don't love shift. It wasn't like my favorite thing, but it was fun. I like shifting things. and then 3 turns from now, like really sweating, like, oh, I can't believe it's only been 2 turns since I shifted this thing. I need it on the battlefield right now. And I felt like that tension was really cool in draft. But it felt like the more powerful I made that, the more degenerate it would be in constructed space. Like if you could shift something immediately and that thing had a passive on it, like the Red Titan that just plays cards off the top of your deck every turn, like that'd be busted. And then you'd have to say, okay, shift a unit that costs X or less, blah, blah, blah. And it kind of got bogged down. And also just wasn't that interesting or fun. So luckily when I fired that off, the first email, they said they loved Ghost Train. They loved the concept. They like draft, everything's cool. Then they were like, shift, I don't know. It's not going to be in every set. If you want it to come out soon, maybe don't use shift. Otherwise, we also need to find something a little more special for your card because it is just kind of doing things that other cards already do. And I was like, oh man, back to the drawing board. But luckily, that was good. That was good. I would have felt bad if they were like, yeah, no problem. Then they make it and then it sucks. And then that was my card, right? I really like that they kind of said no in a few different ways that were helpful. And they did they laid out like other options, like you could do stuff with this or that or whatever. And so I went back and I kept thinking about, okay, I really like this idea that stuff's on the train and I want to feel like a train. And then yeah, and I was also trying to think of some novel mechanic, and that the scary part where everything came back. It's like, oh, you don't play Magic, blah, blah, blah. I thought Kira was so elegant and such a high bar of like, in one line of text, your mind just explodes of all the different cards it can go with. And it's like, I'm not going to try to, I can't compete with that, right? And so I eventually thought of, I didn't want to use Invoke because we were in the middle of Invoke craziness and it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, as fun as it can be sometimes. It does feel like Hearthstone, and our purists and even reasonable people I would say out there are kind of sick of it. But I do like the generate pick 3 thing. And then I like when they do there's a lot of cards that let you select between unit, weapon, and unit, attachment, and spell, right? And my first idea was Piercing Shot. And I was like, well, what if the train explodes, right? And then Piercing Shot's kind of a weird spell to play multiple times because you still need targets between them, or you can go face or blah, blah, blah. And then I thought, okay, cool. What if it's just a unit, or if it's Piercing Shot, or if it's weapon? And so I sat down. I thought Rakano made the most sense. My unit was Canary, which is a joke from my stream. And I even wrote that in the email. It was Canary, and then parenthesis, this is probably a joke, ... And then it was Piercing Shot. And then for the weapon, I tried to go a little too hard into the, I don't know what to call it, cycle, but I want it to be, okay, it's a green unit and it's a red weapon. So therefore it has to be a green and red, a red spell. And therefore it has to be a Rakano weapon. And so I think I ended up with Bear Arms, which would have been kind of cute, but maybe even more crazy and limited. I'm not sure. And so I fired that off, and they, I mean, it's hard to really read a corporate email and know exactly how true the emotions are, but it seemed like they were impressed, because my last idea was kind of dumb and simple and basic, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I came up with something that I think they were like, oh, we can make this. This is great. Okay. I feel like I took a load off their shoulders that they weren't going to need to hold me through this whole thing. Because when we're looking at the final card, it was, it's 85% there already. They said, yeah, the Canaries don't make a ton of sense. And also it's kind of, they didn't say this, but it's antithetical to Eternal to make a bunch of flying blockers. Like, there's a reason Canary got nerfed in the first place. It's because just clunking up the ground and the air with no one winning is not fun to make, especially in a mobile game where you're trying to move things along a little bit and best of one and all that. And so they threw out Drifter. They're like, well, a bunch of Drifters would kind of make more sense. And I'm like, okay. And then I didn't hear from them for a long time. Like, the pandemic was starting. I got a little scared. I didn't know if they were playtesting it or not. I kind of just ran off and made 10 versions of the train for each of the 2 faction identities. And it was really hard to find. And I was trying to do it for all of them. I was trying to find, color A for the unit, color B for the spell, and A plus B for the third one, right? And it gets pretty constrained pretty fast. But I come up with a few that I thought were fun. It was a Yeti one that was sled, but it was still called a train, and it just looked like a train, and it was made of wood and was going down a hill. I didn't draw it, but like, that was what my brain is like. They can't make a train, but they can make a sled that they just go choo-choo on. And then it throws snowballs or whatever. And that one had charge. That was the other thing. I'm glad it didn't have charge, even though constructed meta probably should. It would be rebalanced around that, of course. But I like that it's big and slow, and that's coming. You have to deal with it, and you have a chance to deal with it, right? And I think that's the kind of card. I wish those were more prominent and powerful, and not everything needs immediate impact or Aegis, right? And then I think it becomes, you can't have your big fat dumb bomb if it also has to have this huge spell attached to it, right? And so whatever, maybe it'll squeak into some expedition decks. It's certainly a bomb and limited, of course. But it's probably not making this weekend's Throne ECQ. That's right. And my only thing I want to talk about was Ember Blade that came back a lot stronger than I thought it would be. Like I was trying to obviously the weapon's kind of like the most risky thing, because you need something to play it on at the time, right? If you're going to run into a sweeper or whatever. 3/3 is pretty nuts though. And it was a new token. And interestingly, when they pitched it to me, they were like, "Oh, how about a 3/3 gun?" And I was like, "Wow, that's a lot more that's bigger than I thought. Let's go with it. Gun is great." And then the other card is created on, we actually talked about it, it's the quad red one in draft, the Armed and Dangerous. Also depicts a guy with a gun, right? But the weapon both of these things make is a sword. So my pet theory is that something else sooner is coming, or that I missed, is going to use Ember Fury Blade, or maybe Ember Fury Blade is going to become, like we've talked about, a token that becomes a card. But somehow both of these like kind of more gun-centric cards made a 3/3 weapon, and that weapon ended up at the last second kind of being a sword. So I'm curious if there's like maybe there's an art reason they had the art for the sword laying around. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. It was just kind of a cute curveball they threw at the end.
Yeah, man, this is so exciting, dude. Like seriously, I'm digging this so much. This journey, like, were you just pumped waiting for every email to come back?
Yeah, and it did drag on to the point where it's like a couple times I just pinged them like 3 weeks later, and I was like, "Hey, sorry, anything I can do or whatever." So it's rough because it's such a privilege what they're doing. They don't owe us that much. The amount of support that Direwolf gives streamers with drops, to say nothing else, is insane. They do so much for us that just starting out in Twitch in some random directory you would not have, right? And now I'm going to get this card, and it's going to be amazing, and they're helping me build it and whatever. And so it kind of wears on you when it's like, oh man, it's like been a month and I haven't heard anything. I don't, like, the next set's coming up, like I don't know if it's going to make it in there. So it's like the tension there is a little bit like, I don't want to be ungrateful and push too much, but also like I get it. I miss emails all the time. Like half of my job is just responding to an email to say I'll send you an email later, right? And so no shame in that. So I had to ping a couple times. The total, just to set some expectations for other people that are going to do this, they give you an introductory email that kind of lays out, like, think about top down and then bottom up and then left right and right left or whatever. Like they have you kind of do a worksheet because they don't know if you have a card already done. Like I think Cassandra was like, here, it's done, and they've made it cooler even since then. With the K, but I came in, my card was kind of bad, and I was even just kind of flailing around. So I was at least able to kind of work through mentally, and I even identified, like, I don't think my card's anything special enough, and that was one of the 4 points they had me fill out. And so I was kind of giving them the opportunity to say, yeah, you're right, it does need to do something a little bit more, and that led us to where we are, and something I'm much happier with. So I think their intro was cool. Okay, so that's the intro. That was February 14th. Or no. That was, I don't have that first email. It was sent without a subject line, which is just real lies. I added a subject line on my reply. Then, okay, so their first response email to the first idea I sent them was mid-February. And then they were like, yeah, try again. And then I got back to them at the end of February. In early March, they responded right away. And they were like, oh my God, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then I sent them one more, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I sent them an email with like the 10 other trains. And I was like, do any of these work? I don't know. And then I didn't hear anything back, so I waited 2 more weeks, and then I pinged them, and I was like, hey, I know we're all working from home now. At this point, I didn't know if it was stalled on waiting for me to give them a better train, or if they were working behind the scenes. And as it turned out later, they were definitely already playtesting a version of the card, so that it was already a lot of work done, and that's how they came up with like the 3/3 weapon, that the weapon had to be kind of pushed in order for it to kind of belong. And so then they responded early May. Yeah, so all April gone there, right? Then they responded in May, and they were like, yeah, we wanted to touch it in. They were still calling it the Ghost Train at this point. And they said, we've been playtesting with it, and it's really fun, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, thank God. Okay, so it's working. The gears are turning. It's going to come out, and they're happy with it. And the mechanic was so true to the thing I wanted. It was exactly the mechanic I wanted. And the whole thing was built around Reckless, so that was definitely in. They were skeptical about Overwhelm at first, and they ended up including it. So I was so happy with getting so much of that I wanted at this point that my worry was balance and rarity, which is totally their job, right? Like if the card came out and it's way too underpowered or way too overpowered, like, what, you gonna blame me? Like, I just wanted a train that did this thing. Like, they're the pros, right? And so a little bit of me was already trying to like mount a defense in case it was a disaster. And then I really like its spot right now, where it is, yeah, it can feel unfair and limited, but man, you got a whole turn to just do anything to it and it's gone, right? So I feel like I'd rather have my bombs do that than come out with Aegis and Nuclear Hull Board or whatever. And then, yeah, the only wrinkle that happened was the set spoilers started like a couple weeks, like the community spoilers started getting purchased and spoiled. And they had said, "Oh, you're gonna get a spoiler for this. Like, you don't need to buy anything. You don't need to ask us. Like, you're gonna get one." And I was like, "Oh, cool." So I didn't get one that like first week or whatever. And then the second week started creeping by, and that was like, okay, it's gonna come out on Tuesday, and it ended up being delayed to Wednesday due to the Android store or something crazy, right? But anyway, it was like Tuesday. This card is revealed because it comes out, right? And I pinged them, I think Friday morning beforehand. The 18th, 17th, maybe it was Thursday, for whatever. It was, there was a weekend between now and when the set comes out. And like, I didn't even know when I was going to stream or whatever. And I was kind of like, come on, send it over, please. Is it done? Is it not done? That's also concerning. And then that Friday, they got back to me. It was like Friday afternoon. They sent it to me, and it was the same card, but it was legendary. And I, in 5 seconds, replied back, and I was like, "Oh my god, thanks! This is so cool." But people are going to ask me why it's legendary, and I only really play draft and sealed. And so, like, does it have to be? Is it too complicated to be like? This is the funny part. I was trying to make this card uncommon, which is silly. Obviously, in its final form, this card should not be uncommon. I'll admit that, but I thought it would be less powerful or less complicated, and then be uncommon. And that's what I wanted. I had said the words draft uncommon multiple times throughout this entire thing, and I was ready for it to be rare. Like, kind of where we landed, I was like, yeah, it's probably rare. You still play with your rares. You see them enough times to feel special, and they can be extra powerful, and that's great. When I came back as legendary, I was like, man, I might never see this card. Like, there are legendary cards I've never played with, even though I play draft all the time, right? And have been in sets that I'm drafting. It's just statistically not going to happen, right? And so I did the embarrassing thing of like, I responded, and then I waited a half hour, and then I replied again, like, wait, is there, maybe it could be rare? Like, I started like bargaining with nobody. I was like, I don't even sound ungrateful. This is also cool, but like, I'm a draft player, and like, I really want to play with my card, and I don't really play constructed, so I can't really like just, I can make a deck, but it's not really the game I enjoy. And then like an hour later, and this was, peak embarrassment, I sent a third unanswered email that was just one line, and I was like, I'm sorry, I keep sending emails. I'm like, could we possibly change the card to make it rare, even if it means we just push it to the next set and it goes through more playtesting? Or like, it doesn't need to come out right now if it's legendary. If we can pull it back or do something so that it's rare, that would be really cool. And then the weekend went by, and I figured, okay, they sent the email Friday afternoon. So the fact that they didn't get back to me on Saturday, Sunday, like, no one's in the office, right? So no big deal. So I didn't reveal it over that weekend. I was telling people I was going to reveal it that weekend because I knew I was getting the spoiler on Friday. They had told me I think they told me on Wednesday I was going to get it on Friday. So I started telling everybody, I'm going to reveal this on Saturday. Oh, man. And then that didn't happen, right? Because I was like, okay, there's a small chance they can change it. And I don't want to spoil it and then have it be wrong and then have that be a whole thing, right? So on Monday afternoon, I got the email, and it was just the rare version of the card. And they're like, hey, thanks for the feedback. Yep, we talked about it. It can be, it's not too complex to be rare. But yeah, it is too complex to be below rare, right? But here we go, it's rare. And I was just, oh my God, my heart just like, I was so like stressed out about like, I kept going back to the emails, and I'm like, did I really miscommunicate that like I only play draft and that the rarity is extremely important to seeing a card that you want to play a lot in draft not be legendary? And I was like, is this an oversight, or is this purposeful, or I don't know. And then they were like, oh yeah, here's everything you want. And then it was the day before the set, was released. So I'm sure the images were already uploaded to the stores or whatever. So I don't know what kind of fix they had to do, but somebody had to do work at the last second because some dumb emails that I sent at the last second, and that kind of flexibility and just caring about something that I asked for after they've given me so much. Like, this card is basically the card I designed. They had to write new code, right? There was like, we had a secretly choose market thing, and then we also had the pop-up with the 3 cards, but they hadn't really gone together like this before, where I had to remember a card and then be revealed to your opponent later and then count on its things. They ended up using the Amplify interface, which I thought was awesome. I didn't even think about that. And also lets you know those cards are being played simultaneously, which actually matters in some cases. And then they added art. The boxes, the little cargo boxes, explode when you attack. They're little, and then when the card dies, they explode big, while the card's being ripped to the void across the screen, which is kind of cute. So I was just blown away by just the sheer amount of stuff they did for me for this. And so I was that last second like plea to change something I felt kind of selfish about. But man, I'm so glad it happened because now everyone's just coming to me saying, "Oh man, I got all these trains in Forge and it's just rolling over the AI," or "Oh, I got it in League. I'm gonna play Rakana, so I play the train, whatever." The feedback's been great. And the only thing negative that anyone said about it is basically like, yeah, it's not a throw-in card. It needs 5 health to survive the Jack. Comically enough, I did just build an expedition deck immediately, and I played it. I got to play it. The first time I played it, of course, it died immediately to like Annihilation. I think or Annihilate's like its worst enemy, of course, right now. But the first player to play it against me in my red deck, I just shot it with Jack for 4, and I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm a monster. Yeah, I think that's mostly all I got to say. That was the journey. That was the email exchange. And then back and forth, 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of 5 emails of substance in replies to things I had sent. And then the other 2 were kind of like, okay, you'll get it by the end of the week, or okay, here's the rare version, or whatever like that. So they will engage you and go into detail about stuff, but don't expect, a 2-hour back and forth one-on-one with some magic superstar guy, right? So it is someone's job, and I'm sure these emails are not written by the people. Like, they probably have to take it to a committee or a meeting or float it around, and then somebody writes it up and brings it back. So there is a turnaround here that takes a while. And my emails are just walls of text where I just talked about every little detail, and I definitely didn't get every single little thing I asked for, but the sheer amount of stuff I did get, I'm super happy with. And especially with that last change, I feel so well taken care of, and like, this is the greatest card game company ever. So yeah, would recommend. Save up your points.
Sounds awesome.
I'm 500,000 to the card back, but I think it's just gonna be train tracks at this point. Oh, the train's not on a train. It's more like a war wagon. It's not really a train, but that's okay. It's still the train.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, dude. That's so insightful and exciting. There's definitely a couple of decks on Warcry and Expedition running it, so you definitely hit the mark there. It's very.
I think the Skycrag Chonker deck picked up a couple, which is funny because the whole deck existed around playing around Jack, and they're like, that one's just worth it. Just throw it in there. Who's playing Jack anymore? Sorry.
No, but it's perfect too, because it's a must answer threat, right? If you don't answer it, you're just gonna start getting so much value on it, so it's worth the the squeeze. The juice is worth the squeeze, so to speak. But the in limited, it's great. I think people, it's just so well received, and it's actually funny that you mentioned all the extra animations and program they put into it, because I think you're 100% right. I was super excited when I first saw it. I was like, oh man, they did so much extra stuff for it. That's super neat. So
I hope that it incentivizes them to make other versions of this mechanic, because it's like, oh, you already got the art and the programming done. Like, why not? And then I can take credit for more cards.
True story, man. True story. I like I said, I think it's been immensely well received from the community. Alex, John, do you guys have anything to add?
No, the card's such a good limited card. I think the final result, it's based on everything that you said, it sounds like they did finally kind of dial it in, and you guys came together and made this very sweet limited card. I mean, it would just be a little too powerful at uncommon, unfortunately. But
you think, yeah,
yeah, because it's such a powerful card. Like, it just attacks into anything. Like, you're happy to play it in any draft you're in.
I guess that's another point I should talk about more, is the specific casting costs and stats didn't come up, or at least I threw out a bunch of ideas. I was really thinking like a 3-power 4/4 was kind of where that's where I was like, oh, an uncommon 3-power 4/4. Like, that doesn't sound crazy, right? And they never really engaged on that, and I probably respect that that's their job to play test and go, okay, it needs to cost 1 more, it needs to have more attack to be relevant in this meta or whatever. So I would say if you're submitting a card and you really, really care about it needs to cost exactly this much or have exactly this much health, or like really lay that out and kind of press them into engaging you on that, because that's probably the part that they're just going to take and mess around with, and feel like, well, we've done so much good by this thing that they checked in to make it a red card. They were like, we're thinking just mono red. Is that okay? They actually asked me if that was fine. And I was like, yeah, cool. I was like, just please don't give it like 3 or more influence pips, because that would be impossible to play. And then LOL, the joke is the set you can play up to 4 or whatever. But in general, I wanted something that you wouldn't completely ruin your draft deck to try to like jam in there. And I think 2 is fair on a really powerful card, because you do have to pay for it a little bit, but it's not insane to do so. And then
that's amazing, because like in future drafts, this will be in a draft pack, right? And then you'll be just as happy to see it then.
Yeah, hopefully a boosted rare. Yeah.
Oh god.
Right?
At uncommon, can you imagine having 2 trains in your deck, in your limited deck? Huh?
So when I thought it was a 4/4, the part of the thing I liked about Piercing Shot was like, well, I'm not going to be some eternal noob and make a card that'll just reckless itself right into a Sandstorm Titan, the most classically pushed overstated card ever. So with the Piercing Shot, you run into it with a 4/4, and then you cast Piercing Shot and you finish off the Titan. You got a nice 1-for-1 on the most busted card in the game, right? And then it turns out it's 6/4, and you got stats left over to go upstairs or like to shoot something else or to play your weapon that you almost always pick anyway. So it didn't even need it at the end of the day. I do like, even though it's 95% correct to pick the weapon every time because you're probably playing a red deck that has units anyway. I have gotten to play Piercing Shot for exact lethal the turn I needed it, and I have got to play Drifters on a board sweeper that it didn't get silenced on. So at least once in a great while, the other ones are correct, and therefore you can assume nothing. I think is nice, but it definitely feels like I'm just ready to slam that weapon every single time. I barely even think about it.
No kidding. See, I'm the complete opposite. I have to have a very like a specific board state or matchup for me to feel comfortable playing the weapon. Because for me, it's just so risky to, if you have no units, then you have nothing to play it on. So my default.
Yeah, I guess if I had nothing in my hand, I might think about it. But since I haven't got to draft it yet, I've only had to play an expedition, and so of course the deck is just full of units and stuff like that. So there's almost always something ready to come down or already on the board. But yeah, it'll be a little scarier, like a top deck in limited when you have nothing. Is like, okay, well, am I going to need something, or is there going to be something there by then?
Yeah.
But that's the fun.
Yeah, I've seen all 3 modes picked in my games so far.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for that, Gibbon. Truly, thank you. Alex.
Cool. Thanks.
No, go ahead, buddy.
No, that was it. I was saying thank you.
No, hey, you're the one that did the long haul for it. So, Alex, you have anything to add before we move on?
I've only got to play it in 2 draft decks and can't wait to pick it in more. And yeah, thanks for making a card that's going to like outlive this set. I think it's like a good limited card for, like John said, it's going to be in draft packs for like any set. So.
I bet it'll be in the first, as soon as it rotates out of Expedition or whatever, I bet it'll be in the first draft pack. It is just a sweet limited card.
They've done a good job keeping Kira in most of the draft packs, and especially buffing her later. Phenomenal, and that made me feel really good. That like they while Kira is amazing, I think they also are going to put an extra special care to cards that the community cards, and making sure that they're not rendered irrelevant somehow, right? So it probably won't be in every draft pack, but I'm hoping that's in more than less.
Oh man, I just drew a blank. Oh yeah, that's right. You guys are just lucky because I've only seen it in 1 draft so far, and I was nowhere near playing Fire, so I had to pass it. It made me so sad. So the fact that all you guys have drafted it multiple times now, I'm like, what the heck? What am I doing wrong? But all right,
just gotta get lucky.
Yeah, apparently so. So lucky. Whoop whoop. I gotta make an animation. Oh, I have a hype train animation, so I'll just do that every time we play the train plus.
Nice.
All right. Well then, guys, that is going to do it for our main topics. Once again, thank you, Gibbon, for sharing that journey with us, man. It was so exciting. I'm super stoked now. You definitely revitalized my drive to get there, which I think, I don't know, I haven't done the math because I don't want to see a year on there, but it's probably going to be a year, but that's all good. Anywho, moving on, let's go into our What's the Play, where we break down a specific board state where I feel has multiple lines of play, but obviously we found out that even though there's multiple lines of play, when you have 10 minutes to talk about it, you can probably identify the best one. But that's what we're here about. Helps both experienced and newer players figure it out. So this board state, our opponent is on Stone Scar. We are on Skycrag. Our opponent is on 22. We're on 13. And then they have a 0-2. Oh no, Patroller. There you go. The Surge get a +3 attack. It has 1 decay damage on it, so that's why it's a 0-2. 1/1 Frog, 4/4 Quick Draw Sharpshooter, and a 1/1 Rustling. Our side of the board is the Cartographer that gains +1 attack every time you draw a card, and it's currently a 6/3, and then a 3/1 Ankle Cutter. Our hand consists of Oni Battle Driver that we talked about earlier, the 3/3 for 4, pay 2 to give a unit +1 attack per each unit that you have, and Overwhelm. Steam Shot, Steam Bolt. Do you guys remember what this one is? The deal damage equal to your units, and if you have Fire Influence, it deals damage to the opponent as well.
It's Steam something. Steam Blast, maybe?
Steam Vents? No, that's a.
I think it's Steam Blast. I think you're right. I think
Steam
it's Steam
Blast,
Blast, Steam Sprite, and then Steam Rider. I think they are. Fire Sigil, Fire Symbol, and then a Wisdom of the Elders. 3 primal, fast spell, draw 2 cards. All right, Gibbon, let's start off with you, buddy. How would you negotiate this turn?
Yeah. The more I look at this, the more I keep changing my mind. Okay, so I guess just the most crazy big attack you could make is you could Steam Blast the wrestling, and you could play. Well, you could let's see. You could play a Fire Influence so the Steam Blast is activated, or is it already activated? Whatever. You could hit the wrestling and maybe go upstairs with it, and then you could play Wisdom's Elder to make an 8/3 blue guy and attack for 11 in addition to your Steam Blast damage. The only thing is you're at 13 and you're staring down a 4/4 quick draw that you really don't have a block for at the moment. So depending on how scared I was, like if I'm feeling like I could survive another turn and then chump, I kind of like doing that because the battle driver means it pulls the goal line further in for battle driver to get over, and battle driver doesn't last forever, right? So I'm kind of starting there, but that might be reckless. it might be worth. You could like what else? You could battle driver undepleted power and then throw the top heavy guy over the wrestling and save the Steam Blast and make the Steam Blast be your finisher. I'm not sure if the math works out better either way, but I think sitting back and trying to deal with the 4/4 quick draw with all your resources is probably not right. I do like getting some damage in, even though we're at a huge life deficit. It's just the frog. The O2 guy could be scary too. Is the other thing. They play a symbol and suddenly you're getting hit for a lot more than 4, right? So that's where I'm at. But I'm not great at piloting. So
You say that. It says the drafter that everyone watches week after week.
It's the draft process is the fun part. Playing the cards is rusty. But anyway, sorry. What are you guys talking?
Fair. I feel the same way sometimes. All right, Alex, what do you think, buddy?
So, for me, I'm scared about the 13 life, and the colors that my opponent is in is the colors that can really get into double damage and stuff. And I'm like Gibbon said, you don't really have a block for the 4/4. So that just takes like one pump and the double damage guy out next turn and you're dead, basically. So like I think I just play my blocker and then draw more cards next turn and just like I hold back here, I think. And that might be super passive, but I think to win the game I need to wait a little bit here.
Okay, so you would play the battle driver and then pass the turn?
Battle driver and pass the turn. I don't even swing because I don't want my either the 6/3 to be smaller or the 3/1 to be dead. So I just develop the board and then draw cards next turn, and then that makes your damage spell do more. Hopefully to get one more unit out to kill the 4/4 with the. I don't even know what that. It's the damage one, right? Per how many units you have out to a unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it's so 4 fire influence to make it go face as well.
I think patience is what I would do here.
Okay, all right, solid, John.
I think I lean more into Gibbon's line. I guess like the first thing I do here is play Wisdom. So I guess the next play depends completely on what I draw. So I don't know how much, it's like how much farther, right? It's like a cop out, but like, if I draw like a 1 or 2 drop, then that means the Steam Blast might be able to take out this 4/4, and that might make me play defensively here.
That's good point.
Yeah, so that's the only reason why I say that. I really like if I don't really draw anything, if I don't draw like a 1 or 2 drop or like a burn spell, if it's just another like generic like 3 drop or something, then I probably like Wisdom, play the symbol, go ahead and get that 1/1 out of the way so I can push maximum damage here, which is like it'll chunk them down more than half their life total here. So like that means that they just have to have lethal, or they don't even know, but they're gonna get overwhelmed next turn with some overwhelm attacks. So like it's like a 2-turn clock probably after that. I like being aggressive here because like we're very clearly behind with no way to like really stop these attacks without just going down on units, and that's the opposite of what we need to be doing to actually win a game when our plan is like battle driver.
Well, that'll kill the unit when you use it, though.
Yes, well, that doesn't, you don't do that this turn. You just get in there on an open board and get a nice big old crack in. Next turn, you have 6 power and battle driver. You can do both, right?
So you swing with the 6/3 so that they block with the 1/1, or you hope.
No, no. Like I said, it totally depends on what my draw is off wisdom. But like, if I'm attacking, I'm getting this blocker out of the way and just swinging in with my team here and just taking
Gotcha.
whatever crackback they have.
Yep.
Put them on the back foot here.
Yep, that's actually what I end up going with. I went with yours and Gibbon's line where I drew cards, played played Fire Symbol to turn on the Steam Blast, took out the Decay so I could take out half of my opponent's life total. Because then, it got in for 2 plus the 11, so I literally did 13 damage here, taking them to sub 10. They were at 9 now all of a sudden. So,
so at that point, they either have it and kill you next turn, or they're like not attacking.
Yeah,
like,
and because the other consideration for that is the fact that the ankle cutter being a 3/1, them having 2 1/1s on their side of the board means that this guy was about to be a blocker very quickly. So getting a little more, value off of it before it kind of bites the bullet was on it. And then plus, having the battle driver in hand means that we can make the cartographer. It's going to be an 8, then it draws another card next turn, so it's going to be a 9/3, then it's going to be a 12/3 because of the battle driver trigger. Made it to where it doesn't look like it with our opponent at 22, but they could effectively be on a 2-turn clock. And so that's the line we took here.
Sweet.
Did it work?
Yes, yeah, I did. Yep.
I do feel like I don't want to say emotional state, but I also like I feel like the crazy go for it 2-turn clock is probably like a, I don't know, 60-40, 70-30 play. There's sometimes where I'd take that in a second if my deck is like 0-2 and I'm losing all night and I'm like, I feel like that's just how I just need to try to get a win. But if I feel like really confident in my deck strength and it's like, I even though we're a little bit on the back foot here, if it just feels like, oh, well, we're got all these powerful cards coming, and if we just sit back, we can maximize our chances to win, then I'd probably end up more conservative. So I don't know if that's, maybe you should never make that part of the decision, but I do feel like my mood or like how the night's been going will probably push me on either side of the fence because I think they're both pretty legit.
Now, I will say this, that is still a very high risk, high reward play, not only because of what John mentioned as far as the crackback being very, very detrimental. The fact that their opponent is on Stone Scar leaving up 2 power means that they have access to quite a few things that could interrupt us mid-combat, to include something like Seer or even...
that sacrifice card,
Annihilate.
Annihilate, and the sack card. It escapes me now because I personally don't like it, even though the most community
Grizzly
does.
Contest.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's 3 power though.
Oh yeah,
is
you're
that
right.
3?
You're right.
Sorry.
It is 3 power. Yeah, but either way, regardless, there's
just a Seer.
there's definitely things that could go pretty wrong here. Yeah, I guess Defile doesn't hit. The Cartographer's a 4-drop, so Defile's kind of. But once again, either way, there is consideration for playing a little bit more into the long game as well, especially being able to draw additional cards, etc., etc. And our opponent's board state being able to go wide. They play the +3 damage. They play a power or a symbol. They play +3 damage and the +1 to everything else. The pursuit, we can get blown out. So there's definitely some issues with this line, but a 2-turn clock, you kind of have to take it sometimes when you can, because that definitely puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. And it ended up working out for us here, but like I said, once again, I think that it wasn't as clear cut as it could be. But all right, that's what's the play, which leads us into our constructed corner, and we have a double special constructed corner this week. This is going to be a mono fire expedition deck that not only previews or includes Siege Train by our very own GibbonPlusPlus, but also is a deck that was created and has been ran by our strictly limited player, Darth Urban 2, Alex. So I'm going to break down the deck list real quick for our friends that are listening in. It is a minus the campaign card, which we'll talk about in our campaign cards. It is 16,050 Shiftstone. So it is a fairly good, decent budget with some cards I think could be mixed match. So let's go ahead and dive right into it, break it down. It is 4 Fire Etchings, 4 Covetous Strangers, 4 Seer, 4 Tota Pioneer, 4 Volatile Grenadin, 4 Corrosive Dagger, 4 Jek Mercenary Hunter campaign, 4 Milos Rebel Bomber campaign, 3 Prism Golems, 3 Siege Train, 4 Tattoo Dragon, 4 Flash Fire, 3 Thunder of Wings, 18 Fire Sigil, 4 Fire Symbol, 4 Granite Waystone, and then a market that consists of Ruin, Fire Conjuring, Shavka's Loot, Touch of Force, and General Azaleo. Nice, I like the Azaleo. All right, Alex, without further ado, buddy, break it down for us.
So this deck's pretty straightforward here. When I go in to play games and construct it, I want them to be as fast as possible. I want to win or lose and get out of there and get my quests or whatever I'm trying to do. But this deck, I actually like played it a little bit longer and played it a few times. It's you try to get some advantage with your early drops. The Covetous Stranger, if you could drop it on turn 2, and then a Totem Pioneer on turn 3, and then attack, get the card advantage there, drop something bigger. It really gets a lot of fire power for the Corrosive Daggers. I've messed around with the market and like putting go wide boost cards in the market or putting them in the main deck. So like whoever wants to tweak this deck and throw back any ideas at me, I would appreciate it. I don't usually brew decks, so I'm sure it could be tweaked with and made better. Like the General Azaleo in the market is just like, here's another market card. What the deck really likes to do, like it has some long game for an aggressive deck. If you can get your Shavka's Loot out of the market and turn all of your, well, not all of your, the 1/1 with the decay, turn those into 7/7 flying overwhelmed dragons, and opponents concede pretty quick. This deck it's pretty fast. It's gonna take your opponent out. You have like flawless victories. A lot of times you're sitting at 25 and your opponent's just exploded. So yeah, it's my kind of deck. It gets a lot of advantage with the Totem Pioneer, and go wide. It has like a couple different strategies in there, but it's fun. I like it. I don't know. John gave me a couple ideas. Probably could put 4 of some and 3 of others, or 2 of some, and I don't know. Yeah, if you have any ideas, let me know, guys and gals.
Do you find any bit of tension with Corrosive Dagger and Flashfire wanting you to play out all your influence, but then Jack wanting you to hold on to a sigil, or not really?
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of times it's like if I have already the even number out, then the tension is less. Like if I have the 1 random in my hand, it would put me at 5. Mm-hmm. Or I'll save that until I have 2 if I'm going to play the dagger out later. Because usually I want to save a fire sigil for Jet, because you want to be able to go 4 with that, Yeah. So yeah, I save it until I hit the other token, basically. And then just, some minor timing stuff when you play your Granite Waystone, when you have your Totem Pioneer out, when you have your Tattoo Dragon out, just make sure you sequence things correctly. But it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to play. That line, it's actually one of the biggest decision points. Like, what do I do with my power, in my hand? But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, you can always sandbag your power until the turn you play Flashfire, you play your last power out of your hand. So that makes sense. I do like the idea of cashing in those rustlings for 7/7 dragons. That sounds pretty legit.
And the all-star of the deck for me is that Volatile Grenadin. People, if you take 4 to your face too many times, it's gonna get you, and people just kind of willy-nilly, oh yeah, sure, I'll take 4, and you could drop it turn 2 pretty easily, and it's like, all right, so I just played a 4/4 haste on turn 2 that went in, and then now I have my 2/2 that's just sitting here. It's a pretty powerful card, especially if you can give it cheeky double damage out of the market.
Ooh.
Yeah, I do like that. Coming down and they auto-click their face and realize they just took 8. Oh, God.
Right? They don't even read it.
Oh, God. Double damage of Flashfire. Oh, that's so spicy. I like that.
Ooh.
Double damage of Siege Train. Do the Ember Fury blades come out with double damage if you double damage your Siege Train?
Surely not.
Yeah, I know. I was just living the dream.
Please God, no.
You know what though? I can definitely see if they jump on this train wagon. I could definitely see them making, kind of doing what they did with the winds, right? Where Siege Train is Siege Train, but then you have the armament car or the deadly caboose, and then you just put them all together and it makes like the nightmare train,
like the Whispering Winds.
That'd be beautiful.
Oh my God.
Oh, that would be so amazing, dude! If they do that,
please.
like the train just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Oh, that would be so awesome. Train engine limited or tribal, yes. Oh, that's it. That's it. We're gonna make an uncommon train car. We're gonna make the caboose. Oh, dude, I mean, we have a tight enough community where that could be possible, right? Like oh man, that'd be so great. Even if someone makes a spell instead, they somehow collaborate into like the train, or you make the relic weapon the cart class. You know, I don't know. I'm going off the wagon here with this one, but that are off the rails. But that's
off the rails.
Yeah.
Oh god, that'd be so good. Did you get any input on the artwork Gibbon at all?
No. And that's okay. That was just one of the things where, and I think it's weird because once it became a red card, I was the first offer, like, it's not really a ghost anything anymore. It's okay. And they were like, no, we're going to keep the ghost train. And I was like, okay. And then like a few weeks later, the art came and it's not, it's a red siege wagon kind of thing. So I don't know how the process works there, but they were like, look, it's got to fit in the universe and be in the set or whatever. So I think unless the identity of the card is super focused on like if Sunder's card is somehow not an ooze, like that'd be crazy, right? But for mine, like the whole soul of the card was there, and for them to take a different aesthetic on, it's kind of like a big, I don't know, pirate ship on wheels kind of thing or whatever. I'm fine. Of all the things that weren't exactly lined up with what I was imagining, that's it wasn't high on the list. So I'm happy with it. I think it's fun looking too. It's just kind of over the top ridiculous. Someone's pointed out, like, if that front cannon were to fire, it would fire backwards into all those other little ones. So it's kind of comical, and it's like robot, or not robust, but it's brashness, I guess, or whatever. So I feel like, if this was just a card I was seeing for the first time that had nothing to do with, I'd be like, oh, that's cute, I like it, right? So I think they landed a pretty good with where they got.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. But man, there's on to something. So I don't know how many people actually listen to this podcast, but there you go. We got to try to petition to fill out the Siege Train. I think that'd be awesome.
You're closer than I am, Jedi. That's for sure.
We just do every color gets a different car, right? And then if you put all the cars together, or maybe 3 out of the 5, it transforms into the Nightmare Train. Oh, that'd be so great. Night Train. Sweet. All right, Alex, thanks for sharing that deck with us, man. I've definitely seen you blow out some people with that deck. It's been a lot of fun watching, and probably something I'm going to use to climb, because normally I pick one of the two. I try to make masters, make masters every month on all 3, but I normally pick one to kind of tank, where I just jam out the games, get to masters, and then really focus on the other one. So I'll probably jump on this. Anywho, but that's going to do it for our constructed corner, which means we go.
Can I point out one thing I like too? So I made a similarly, like 75% of the similar cards in red, but I did Berkano. But in either case, I like that in Expedition, you can't be super low to the ground. There's not a lot of 1-drops that are really great, or 2s or whatever. So this deck, and I feel like mine too, it really spikes in power levels at 3 and 4, and the etchings feel great for that, because you can keep a 2-power hand with an etchings in it that you get 33% of the time or whatever, and it can issue that 3. Whereas if you play out a 2-drop and then another 2-drop and then you don't drop power at 3, like, you're never going to beat those purple decks or whatever. And the sooner you can get to Milo, or in this case Prism Golem, which I didn't get to play in mine because it's 2 colors, but you start throwing out those 4s over and over and over again. It's like they will run out of removal sometimes, and so. Anyway, Fire Etchings really surprised me. I'm using it like a one color Seek Power in a 2-color deck, and still getting to play market cards is super fun.
Actually, that kind of makes me, the fact that you're running Rakano makes me want to try to run the train, and then ways to keep it alive. Give it Aegis, give it Indestructible and stuff. Powers. Yeah. Yeah, it'd just be like, that's cool. You're good, obviously, because the removal is going to target your train, because who wants to let the train attack? You're just like, that's cool, I'm going to keep it alive. And then when you do finally cash it in, it's like, wow, 9 power worth of weapons. So.
Yeah. But yeah, you lose the Prism Golem, you lose the Volatile Grenadin, and some of the other funner, more fire cards. And poor Jack, man, not a lot of sigils left over when you're running 4 Kylexes and 4 the other dual lands and 4 symbols and 4 Grindaway Stones.
I love how many sigils are available for Jack in this list.
Which is fine. I mean, I think there's viable fire lists that don't run Jack. I mean, I don't think it's half, or it's a rarity for sure, but I think it's fine, especially if you're the go wide or maybe very low to the ground, because Jack is still 4 power, so, or 5 technically, since you have to keep the sigil to pitch him. Anywho, Gibbon,
isn't it? I thought it was. Isn't he 3+1? Isn't it 4?
Yeah, but you need to have so he's a 3 cost. You need to have the 4th power to
Oh,
pay,
I see
and then
what
you need
you're
to have
saying.
the
Got
5th
it,
sigil
got
to pitch. So
okay,
yeah, a long roundabout, elaborate way, but yeah, technically he's kind of 5 power in my eyes. So
okay,
because there have been times where I've held on to that 4 sigil. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm keeping it for Jack, and then I see the Jack, but then I don't have the 4th power. I'm like, well, this is awkward. So anywho. All right, Gibbon, thank you so much for being on the show, dude, and for sharing not only your views on the format, but just that intricate and personal journey you took with creating a card. I think that was absolutely amazing. A delight to hear, and I hope other people enjoy it and it inspires them to do it. So thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks for giving me a platform to do this, because I basically just talked about it on my stream. It took like 20 minutes and then it was over, and I didn't make a YouTube video or anything out of it. So it's nice to have the time and to have something out there that I can point to, be like, oh yeah, you want to hear about it? Go check out Jedi's podcast, and then it's nice to. So thank you for that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Speaking of your stream, where can people find you at?
Twitch TV/GibbonPlusPlus. I stream sometimes. I just stream 9 p.m. on weekdays and maybe like 5 to 7 p.m. on weekends, but the time and day is just completely erratic based on my mood or how much barbecue I've eaten, or work and stuff like that. So I'm a pretty casual streamer at this point, but still a part of the awesome Eternal Draft community that I love so much. So yeah,
sweet. Thank you so much, buddy. Just thanks, dude. All the thanks. It's been great having you. Definitely worth the wait.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, you can catch us once again streaming live at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday for all kinds of limited goodness. And if not, you can catch not only the video version of the show, but draft videos and sealed videos and constructed tournament reports on YouTube. Just search up EternalJourney. Please think about considering joining our Discord, where we have a phenomenal community of people that help each other draft, build decks, make cuts, do all the good stuff, and even play together. Get on, share. We video screen share and help each other do it live. So check that out, as well as John and Alex's super secret streams. We can catch those dudes streaming their limited prowess there as well.
Discord streams.
Hey man, it's legit, dude. It's one. There's some people that just
no drops though.
Yeah, fair. No drops, but the level of play will go up. So. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're enjoying this new draft format. Hope you're considering saving up your influence and cashing in for your own card, or at least thanking Gibbon for making such a fun card to play with, as well as Kalibovich, Cassandrith, Bearden, and Yodabite. For, 5 people have cashed in cards. That's pretty impressive, dude, for having such a small community. So thank you all for watching us on Twitch and giving us influence. But that's going to do it for us. So as always, happy gaming.
Bye.
Good luck in your draft queues, everyone.
Toot toot.
Nice.